most of the time when tourists come to Europe, or even European travelers, if they travel around Europe, they do not go so often. They do not often visit the countries in Eastern Europe. For example, well, Moldova or Ukraine, but also Romania, also Azerbaijan, where we are now.
Or the Caucasus, the other parts of Caucasus, like Armenia, Georgia, Russia, of course.
Yes. Why should people come to Eastern Europe? Because you tend to spend most of your time in Eastern Europe, not the Western Europe. You really like to travel off the beaten track. Why is that? Why should someone come to a country like, let's say, Ukraine or
Russia?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I went to all the countries in West Europe more or less in the beginning, right? So it's not like I started off in Eastern Europe. That said, I think there are really great things that you can see and do here. Like, for example, I think St. Petersburg is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. I think, the Baltics, of course, very sweet kind of countries and cities in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Romania, I think Transylvania, for example, is one of the most beautiful parts of the continent, the mountains. So many things you can do there, great sports like cycling, hiking through the mountains, even skiing in Transylvania. And then you've got the Balkans. I mean, you have cultural centers like Serbia and Belgrade, the beautiful coastline in Dalmatia in Croatia. So there's like a big varied. And here in the Caucasus, you have some of the best food, I think, in Europe, for example. We had a great meal this morning, my first Azeri meal, but Georgian food, for example, is so famous. It's one of my favorite cuisines in Europe. So it has a lot to offer in terms of culture, food.
Get good value for money here.
Great value for money. It tends to be cheaper in general. Russia used to be very expensive. For example, Moscow used to be one of the most expensive cities, I think. But now with the devaluation of the Russian ruble, it's come down to reasonable prices. So Central Europe today is now like it was 15 years ago when it used to be very cheap. And I think Eastern Europe has kind of taken over for that, to giving you great value for money when you're traveling. So typically, Central Europe would be, say, maybe a little bit cheaper than Western Europe, say 20%, 30%, maybe most, whilst Eastern Europe tends to be about 50% cheaper, maybe even more. It just depends where you are and what you're doing. So it combines interesting travel experiences at a definitely a lower price, I think, overall. One caveat is that, it's good if you can speak Russian in most of these regions, because it used to be the Soviet Union.
I think this holds a lot of people who might be watching this video now back from actually coming to this region because of the language obstacle. On the other hand, well, these days you speak Russian very well, but that hasn't always been the case, right?
Precisely. So in the beginning, I actually really struggled in Russian when I was traveling. So I've gone through that experience myself, and that's one of the main reasons why I learned the language, is that I was traveling in countries like, Georgia, here we're in Baku, and even though the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it's 25 years ago, everybody here speaks immaculate Russian. So it's really the lingua franca for traveling. And we're here with a third friend who doesn't speak Russian. He wandered out this morning for 20 minutes and couldn't find anyone who spoke English. So it's really, really important. So I guess that puts a lot of people off, but that became more of a challenge for me, and that's why it's so important to take an interest in trying to learn the languages. It's not like Russian is just for Russia, it's really for the lingua franca throughout the entire Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, So that's one thing that's very important to understand before you come here. Local people have been really hospitable. I mean, if they speak in English, they certainly try to practice it.
Exactly, and if you only try, because, well, my Russian is still at a very low level, but if they see that I try to speak the language, they are already happy and they react very friendly to
Exactly. People are very, I think people are very friendly in the region in general. I think maybe it's a misconception in Western Europe that because people tend to be impolite, I think, when they're approached in public, that they're not friendly. And I think this is not the case. People really try to help a lot more than, say, certain very touristic capitals in Europe, like Paris, for example. But I think people should go to Paris and London if it's their first trip. These are the main highlights.
Take the picture in front of the Eiffel Tower.
I guess if you've been dreaming about coming to Paris, for many years, and then you come to Europe. Actually, it's interesting. I once was in a cafe in Chisinau, and I met an American student, and it was actually her first time in Europe, and she went to Moldova because it was an organized trip. So I found it interesting about her first impressions were, because she didn't do this touristic trail. She did it the second trip when she came back. So there,